In this video, I will be teaching you guys how to use a jigsaw. Now, a jigsaw is a handheld saw that we use to cut designs or curved cuts into wood that we need to do. Or sometimes we'll use it to cut into foam. Now, there's a couple of rules as far as safety goes. You need to obviously be wearing your safety glasses. That's one top priority, making sure you're wearing your safety glasses when you use this. It makes a lot of sawdust fly up and you don't want to get anything in your eye. The second thing is to make sure you're not wearing any jewelry, anything that dangles down so it doesn't get caught in the mechanism. Okay, so we're going to use this to make a cut. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to put the blade in. So we have all of these jigsaw blades, and there are different kinds. So we have a couple different kinds, and the main differences of these saw blades is you can see the amount of teeth that these saw blades have. Some of them have more teeth, some of them have smaller teeth, and then bigger teeth. And the way you know which one to use, it just depends on what you're cutting. If you're cutting something thicker, like plywood, you might want to use the bigger teeth to actually make that cut. It'll work a little bit better. If you're cutting something like foam, you might want to use the smaller teeth. That way you'll get a cleaner cut. If you use the bigger teeth on the foam, it's going to make a lot of jaggedness, make a mess with that foam. Also, with some of this thinner luan, if you want your cut to be cleaner, you might consider using the smaller teeth. It's kind of trial and error to see how it goes. There's lots of different styles of these, but we have lots of different ones. And so use your judgment on whatever if it's working well, great. If it's not working, maybe think about switching to a different blade. So first I'm going to show you how to put the blade into the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in here. Okay, so the way you're going to put this in here is you're going to pull this over. Now before I do that, I do want to mention one thing. One of the main rules about this is when you're putting the blade in, you want to make sure that your machine is unplugged. The way I hold this to put this in, the trigger is right here. The trigger can be sensitive, okay? So when you're holding it and you're trying to put the blade in, you don't want to accidentally set that trigger off, and you're going to cut up your hand as you're trying to put in the blade. So I'm going to make sure it's unplugged. I'm looking at it. It's unplugged right here. I'm not going to accidentally set it off, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in. So I'm going to pull this over. This is like the lock, so this little sliding piece right here. I'm going to pull that over, and I'm going to put my blade in. Let's see if I can show you this. In right there. That's where my blade's going to go. I'm going to make sure that my blade is facing, the teeth are facing this way. This is the front of the machine over here. So I want my teeth to face this way. I can't cut, I can put it in backwards, but I'm not going to be able to cut anything with the back of this blade. So I'm going to make sure I put it in this direction. I'm also going to make sure that I line it up in this little wheel here. It's got a groove. I'm going to make sure my blade is in the middle of that groove. Okay, so I'll pull that over, slide that in. It's in the groove. I'm going to push it down. I'm going to make sure it's in there really good. Keep holding it down while I let go of that. Then I'll just give it a little tug there. It's not coming out. Perfect. Okay. So now I'm ready. I can go ahead and plug it in if I want to I'm ready to get cut. Okay. So when I set it down, I'm going to make sure I set it on its side. Make sure I don't set it on the blade. I don't want to bend the blade. These blades are pretty thin, so they're kind of flexible, so they can bend really easily. So that's something you want to make sure that we're not breaking blades and we're not damaging the machine. So always set it down gently if you have to set it somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm going to cut this piece of luan today for you guys to show you. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my machine is plugged in to the extension cord here. Okay, plugged in, ready to go. And like I said, this machine is good at cutting curved lines and designs. We cut a lot of interesting, intricate things. This is the tool for that. It's really good at that. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw myself a curved line. It's not going to be super curved, but I'm going to go ahead and draw a curved line. This will be really hard to do with a miter saw or the panel saw, right? So this is where the jigsaw comes in. We'll cut this curved line. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check a few things before I cut to make sure that I'm not going to have any accidents and everything's going to be safe. So first thing I'm going to check is my sawhorses. I've set this up on 2 sawhorses. I'm going to make sure that my sawhorse isn't going to go, my blade's not going to go into my sawhorse from underneath, right? The way I'm going to cut this is I'm going to have it on top like this, and my blade's going to go down, and it cuts like this as I go, so it's sticking out underneath. So I want to make sure that I don't cut into this sawhorse over here. So I want to make sure I got it set up right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my hand placement. I'm going to put this table right here. I'm going to lay that flat. I want to make sure that that stays flat the whole time as I go along my curve, and that's going to stay flat. Good hand placement would be up here on top. That helps you have a lot of good control. You can also put your hand on the board. Sometimes it makes the board sort of shake as you cut into it, which is why it's also helpful to have some other people on your team helping you hold the board in place, giving you that stability, and it's good to help kind of hold your piece as well. If I do that though, my fingers are now underneath the wood. So I need to make sure that my fingers are nowhere near. They need to be at least 6 inches over here away from the blade. So I'm going to make sure that my fingers are out of the way. The last thing I'm going to check is my cord. I'm going to make sure that my cord is not in the way. Sometimes if we've got the cord looped up here on the sawhorse and it's hanging out underneath, I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally going to cut into my cord underneath, because then if you cut the cord, then this thing is trash and it doesn't work anymore. Okay, so I'm ready to cut. With any of the blades and the saws, we always want to make sure that we are at full speed before we make a cut. And we want to make sure that our blade is at full speed before we even touch the wood. So I'm going to get down here and I'm going to line up, make sure I'm lined up. I can kind of see where the blade is. It's going to be right on my line. I'm going to line it up, and then I'm going to back up a little bit so I'm not touching the wood when I start. This trigger also has a variable speed, so I can give it a little bit of pressure, and it'll go slower, right? So I want to make sure I'm giving it the full pressure, and it's going at its full speed, okay? So once it's going full speed, then I'll go ahead and make my cut. I don't need to go incredibly slow with this, but I do want to make sure I take my time. If I'm cutting this line and it needs to be this exact design, I'm in control. So I have to make sure I have a nice, clean, slow, controlled cut. I can go, faster than, a normal other blade could go, but I'm not going to go super fast because I want to make sure that my cut is accurate, right? Okay, so I think we're ready to go. So I've checked everything. I'm ready to go. I'm going to start cutting. I'm going to cut this curved line. When I get to the end, I'm going to let go of the trigger, wait for the blade to stop fully, then I can go ahead and pull my jigsaw away from my piece. The reason that is because when that blade stops, it slows down, so it's still going. So if I move my blade around and try to pull it out while it's still going, it could get caught on the wood and make it jump like that, or it will bounce on the top like this and make a loud noise, and we don't want any thing to startle anybody, because that's how accidents happen. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this. Making sure I keep this flat the whole time. Stop right here because I'm having a little trouble seeing what I'm doing, so I'm going to adjust. I can use my other hand and I can move to the other side, but it's better to stop and adjust yourself so that you do the cut accurately rather than just trying to guess and see where you're going. So I'm going to move over here so I can change here. Stop, then I'm ready, I can pull it out, okay? I get caught a little bit in there as you're pulling it out. That's because as I cut this, these two pieces come together. Let's see if we can get this out here. There we go. All right, sit that down. So if I were to cut this piece all the way through, right, the two sides of the wood would start to go in like this, and they're pinching my blade. So that's why it's important to have partners that can help you. They can hold these sides, make sure they get held up so that it's not pinching your blade and it's going to make it harder to cut. And also, when you cut through, you get to the end, you don't want your two pieces to just crash down to the ground. Okay, now that I'm done cutting, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to take the blade out and put it away. So before I take the blade out, just like when I was putting the blade in, I need to make sure that it is unplugged. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Plug it. There we go. All right, good. So now I'm not worried about setting off the blade while I try to take it out. Okay. So all the cutting and the heat and the friction has gone into that blade now. So the blade is very hot, and it's hot enough to burn you and blister your fingers. So you want to make sure that you don't just go ahead and grab it and pull it out. The way you're going to do it is you're going to slide the unlocking mechanism over, and there is a spring mechanism that will actually shoot it out. So all you can do is just sort of aim towards a work surface. You can unlock this. It's going to spit it out. I'll let it go ahead and cool down. It should take less than 30 seconds to cool down. Once it's cooler, then I can pick it up and I can put it away. So that's how you use a jigsaw, guys. And we're going to be using this to cut designs, curved lines, and even just smaller pieces down the line. So that's how you use it safely and effectively.